Ladies and gentlemen, there have been speculation of an internal coup in Ivory Coast. And there's been a lot of talk about this coup. According to what we heard, all efforts to reach Alassane Dramane Ouattara, the president of Ivory Coast, has proved abortive. And according to what some people are saying, there has been no light, no network communication, nothing for data is coming out. So I made a conscious effort to dig deep into what is going on in Ivory Coast. I actually called some of my professional colleagues that stays in Ivory Coast, that stays in Abidjan, and I called some that stays close to Yamoussoukro to ask about the real-time situation that is going on. So according to what I heard, the people in Yamoussoukro said Yamoussoukro is in peace. And when I made a call to Abidjan, the guys at Abidjan could actually not reply. They were picking the calls, but there was no response from Abidjan. I think hopefully everything is right, and I pray that everything is going on fine. But from the videos we are seeing, everything is actually not right. So before I tell you what happened, what really happened based on what I was told, these are not my words, I don't live in Ivory Coast. So first of all, let us debunk some things, right? If there was no network in Ivory Coast, I won't be able to reach my colleagues in Yamoussoukro. I won't equally be able to reach those in Abidjan. And why did I call these two places? Because there are two presidential palaces in Ivory Coast. There is one in Abidjan and there is one in Yamoussoukro. But the president is always, most of the time, present in the Abidjan presidential palace. So, ladies and gentlemen, according to the information we were given, that there was a minor peaceful protest. Before people could discover what was going on, they were met with gunfire, and a minor protest, a peaceful protest, a very small number of people became a large crowd after the brute force that was being met on the people by some armed forces members.
Alassane n'a qu'à quitter ici. Il est mort aussi. Moi aussi, papa gouverneur Côte d'Ivoire, c'est un babo qui est ivoirien. C'est un babo nous a fait. Si Alassane fait rien, nous on prend pour lui. On va le
So, according to the information we have, this protest and this dragging with the armed force member actually spiraled out of control when they started recording civilian casualties. So, according to the information we have, this should have been a minor protest, but it broke out into a major protest because the armed forces personnel could not handle the situation with the proper rules of engagement.
Le président Alassane Ouattara, on peut dire que nous-mêmes, on a fait beaucoup d'efforts à ce que le président Alassane Dramane Ouattara vienne au pouvoir parce qu'on l'aime. Notre problème aujourd'hui, là, que le gouvernement fait face à notre problème, quelle que soit la modalité de paiement qui s'arrange pour voir les enfants, pour que ce problème-là finisse. Ça ne nous plaît pas de créer des désordres.
Nous, on n'est pas là pour faire coup d'État. Nous, on n'est pas là pour faire coup d'État. C'est de l'argent là, nous, on veut. Et à parler devant tout le monde ici que nous, il doit nous payer 12 millions de francs CFA. Ces 12 millions là, il a donné 5 millions. On a fait guerre. On a fait guerre. Il a reconnu. Tout le monde a reconnu aussi qu'on a fait guerre. Nous, on est à Boaké ici.
On a non chanté sur l'herbe.
Non, on a fait nos guerres. Est-ce que sinon on n'a pas fait guerre là, on va se lever derrière lui pourquoi? Nous, c'est 8400. S'il y a autre force ailleurs qui réclame quelque chose, non.
So after that, according to what we heard, as soon as getting towards the nighttime, electricity was absolutely shut out, and immediately people could no longer have network communication. I think it must have been linked to the electricity. But ladies and gentlemen, what happened thereafter was very, very diabolic, because we could see from video footages that there was heavy exchange of gunfire. And according to what we heard to this moment, every effort to reach out to the president of Ivory Coast has proved abortive. Ladies and gentlemen, according to what we heard, it was a protest that has been hijacked by some other armed forces personnel, and it has now become an internal coup d'etat. So we can't really tell what the current state of Alassane Dramane Ouattara is at right now, but he has a younger brother who is actually the defense minister. So I feel like the situation might actually be under control, but we never can tell, because when the civilians are against the government and also some personnel are against the government, situations can actually go out of control. But I do feel, just based on my personal feeling, that Alassane Dramane Ouattara could be okay. You know, that is just how I feel about the whole thing. But the biggest problem is that if a peaceful protest could actually be met with that level of brute force, it means that maybe this has been going on for quite a while, but this was just blown out of proportion. So ladies and gentlemen, let's look deeper into another big issue that has been circling around Ivory Coast before this protest actually happened. According to what we heard, they said the people of Ivory Coast have not actually been in good terms with the government because of several decisions that they've made that has actually, you know, put the citizens in a very bad economic situation. And apart from that, what we even heard was that the current relationship between General Michael Langley of the United States Marines and Alassane Ouattara, they said it has really brought a lot of bad blood between the government officials and the people of Ivory Coast. So what happened? You know, Alassane Ouattara, according to the information we heard, actually approved of the decision of AFRICOM Command to bring their drone base into Ivory Coast, and this was simmering to build up a big tension among the citizens, and that was part of the allegations that have been made towards this government. According to people we heard from, they said it's actually a puppet government, and the citizens are now asking for Alassane Dramane Ouattara to actually step down. Ladies and gentlemen, do you think that is the right decision for the president of Ivory Coast to step down from his official position that he won democratically through an election? Ladies and gentlemen, let us look at the decision of Alassane Ouattara to bring the African drone base into Côte d'Ivoire amid West African tension that has been rising with terrorism. You know, this decision is actually looking very favorable on some side, and is looking very unfavorable on some side. So I think if West Africa is actually having one of the biggest or the largest terrorism incursion in recent time, there have been a lot of unaliving there and air, and a lot of neighboring countries are actually putting all effort to fight terrorism. And it has been said that the people of Ivory Coast, there's a general fear among the public in Ivory Coast that these neighboring countries that are chasing terrorists out, that these terrorist elements that have been chased out could actually find their way into Ivory Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is a big terrorism incursion in West Africa and some countries are fighting very hard, there's been rumors that some terrorist mercenaries have been sponsored by Ivory Coast. There's been a lot of comment that Ivory Coast has been a hiding spot for terrorist elements. But Alassane Ouattara has chosen to ally himself with one of the most unfavorable candidates ever, General Michael Langley. In my own opinion, is it the right decision to ally yourself with the United States of America? Ladies and gentlemen, let's watch this video.
Boko Haram regroup, regroup and regroup. What is your answer to that? That you have in some way fed the insurgents?
The problem is that I think we've talked to international community. Let's find out the funding. When they started surrendering, by the time we left, so as we speak, we have over 120,000 that have surrendered. Most of them, when you find them, they are coming with hard currencies. How did they get them? How are they funded? How did they get the training? How did they get the equipment?
What is your suspicion?
Well, Yeah, maybe an international conspiracy, you don't know. Who knows? How are they be able to sustain themselves for 15 years? That is one question I think everybody should ask himself.
Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. If you think that the program under Operation Enduring Sentinel, entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public. Yet somehow you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID. And it's not just Afghanistan, because Pakistan's right next door. USAID spent $840 million in the last 20 years on Pakistan's education-related program. It includes $136 million to build 120 schools, of which there is zero evidence that any of them were built. Why would there be any evidence? The Inspector General can't get in to see them. But you know what? We doubled down and spent $20 million from USAID to create educational television programs for children unable to attend the physical school. Yeah, they can't attend it because it doesn't exist. You paid for it. Somebody else got the money. You are paying for terrorism. This has got to end. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
I'm not trying to judge Alassane Dramani Ouattara, and I'm not trying to judge the people. Neither am I trying to judge you that are going to be the decision maker. It's your boy 7200 signing out. Enough said. But before I go,